We are live. I've got Adam, and he's picked an easy song for me today. So easy. Come and hold my hand. I wanna contact the living. Not sure I understand this role I've been given. I sit and talk to God, and he just laughs at my plan. My head speaks a language I don't understand. And I just want to feel love, feel the home that I live in. 'Cause I got too much life running through my veins, going to waste. And that's it. Because this show is all about you, Adam, and not the song. But they're a bit of Robbie Williams. I'm a big fan of Robbie, so pleased you you chose that. So tell me, why did you choose that song?
I just want to say there's probably a few people I've just some street cred with. It's not my usual sort of hard rock song that I might have picked, but well, I think it's in the lyrics. I think when you've got a language in your head that you don't understand. I don't know how many other people are always trying to translate their own thoughts, but I spent a long time working out where my motivations lie, and that's just a sort of lyric that sends it up and makes me think a bit harder about it. It's a beautiful song though; it's really lovely.
Yeah, it's a cracking song. I don't know if you play guitar.
Yeah, I do. Not as much anymore, but it's still something I'd like to carry on with.
Can you do bar chords?
Oh yeah.
I can't.
Oh, really?
Okay. No. I came to guitar late. Okay, like I was nearly 50 when I started playing guitar, and it's just really difficult. So when I see a song, I go, oh, I can't play that one because it's got bar chords in, and so it's very difficult for me to find different songs, and that's one of those difficult songs. So I could have turned around to you today and say, pick another song, but I thought let's go for a challenge. So thank you very much for picking that. And I made my day watching Adam being serenaded.
It's the first time for everything.
Good job you didn't pick a love song. Hey, Adam. So, Adam, please tell us a little bit about yourself, sir.
I'm a busy boy. I'm always up. I'm a sort of 24/7 guy who's trying to pick up the phone or answer a message at all times, as most people around me will testify. Currently running 3 businesses, an association for the meetings and events industry, and working on how to make people network better. So that's one of my consultancy roles. And generally, I get picked up for work quite a lot. So I hadn't advertised to gain work for many years now. But just by my networking management, I guess, being around, being out there, constantly being a part of a conversation, I do get asked, am I available?
No. We'll dig into networking in a second. But I always like to find out a little bit more about my guests and what they do on LinkedIn. So my first few questions is all about LinkedIn. So why do you like LinkedIn, Adam?
I think it's a safer environment if you compare it to many of the other social outlets. And I think it's fairly well curated. I think I'm better at it than I am trying to keep up with the kids on the other platforms. I don't consider myself to be a particularly visual person. Wouldn't ask anybody to pay too much attention to the way I look at any given point in time. And I'm not going to try any harder than I currently do, probably for the rest of my life. So, maybe the odd photo shoot here and there. But LinkedIn for me has been a place where I can nestle in with professionals. I can expect, on the most part, a better debate. I can certainly be more vocal in the written form. I can position myself as I feel more comfortable. Still not quite as candid as I'd like to be until I create my own channel. I think that's going to stay that way. And quite often I'm representing brands. So it's a place where I feel comfortable and it makes me think about how I manage myself. So it helps me as well.
Okay. Candid. Go on. What's stopping you? What's stopping you? Come on.
I just want to tackle things head on all of the time. There's nothing that I wouldn't debate with somebody, so it doesn't matter how dark or grey the conversation area gets. The quest for solutions, I think, is such an exciting thing to look at. And I may not be the smartest kid out there, but I am a trier. And, if I think there's something wrong, I want to go at it.
I was chatting to a friend of mine yesterday. He's just come back from skiing. Okay. And he took skiing up like only a few years ago, and he's our sort of age, and he said, I keep falling down, but I'm learning, and I pick myself up and I keep going, and I could just stay on the nursery slopes, but I'm pushing myself and I'm having to go on, and I don't know what colours are on the roads. He's definitely not doing black runs at the moment. I know that's the toughest, but what he's saying is he falls over, but he gets up again, and I think that's life, isn't it?
Oh, it is. I mean, I've had lots of entrepreneurial escapades, from the very short-lived to 12 plus years. And the music industry sort of held me for over 20 years. I think that's where my passion still would be, if I thought that I could make an impression there. But now I only have eyes on the prize, and that is, I have a grandiose event that I'd love to be responsible for. But the problem is, I don't really have an event that's less than that. So it's, if I can achieve the biggest event the world has ever seen, then I will go at it. And if I don't, no one ever hears about it, no one will lose. But I'm pretty sure that if we pull it off, everybody would win.
Is this something that's in the planning, or can we
delve
into that?
It's a massively long strategic play. I mean, I've been dreaming of this event since I saw Bob Geldof run Live Aid.
And this is exactly what went into my mind. As soon as you said that, that's exactly what I thought. And where were you on that day?
Oh, I don't know. I was sitting in my front room, probably just watching reruns of Airwolf on a Saturday morning or something. I don't know. It was, for me, it was something that I hadn't seen other big events. So it was my first big event, other than probably paying attention to the Olympics. And this is where the two things line up. So I didn't really have a love of music at the time, but I had a love of the spectacle and the stadium size. Yes. And the fact that I could understand what people were trying to give me. They were giving me a message about the problems in Ethiopia. You heard things from your parents, like there's kids in Africa that, you want to eat stuff even there. Yeah. And those messages weren't really coming through. It was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And until those messages really resonated via music. And then, the Olympics was another one of those things. My dad was a professional golfer, so I always had sort of sport around me, natural sportsman himself. Never quite as good as he was, but I was always trying again. So when I started to work out how to bring things together, I think at 14 I woke up. Suddenly things started to click a little bit. I'm a guy that wears a permanent frown because of my 5 years of school. So I started frowning on the first day of school, and I frowned ever since. So if you see any lines, it's just frowning, right? That's my school life. But I came out of that with a vision of what I didn't want. And that was pretty much everything that I'd learned. It didn't make sense. But the things that started to make sense were entrepreneurial. So I was always selling stuff. I was always trying to get people involved in something. Scheming, if you like. Although I think scheming is a positive word if you do what I do. And then I drew out from these two spectacles. So the Olympics and music. And essentially, I still call it the Music Olympics. That's the dream of running a spectacular worldwide event that lasts for a month and the whole world stares down at it.
Fantastic. Can I play?
Oh, absolutely. Everybody should play. I mean, we're talking about, you can't run an event like that and think bronze, silver, gold. What I've been thinking all along is, can we break every single record that ever existed with music attached to it from the Guinness Book of Records and any other record book that ever existed? And can we make up another 10,000 records that didn't exist beforehand? So think of them as disciplines. Sure. What could a collective be good at? What could a single person be good at? What could a country be good at? And then you can have a bit of a competition with it. But really what you're trying to do is bring people together and look at what a spectacle could be and think, wow, how does someone get that far? How does someone do that well? How does someone play that fast? How do you get 10,000 people standing on a barge across the Thames playing We Will Rock You? What does it mean to break records and think beyond? Sorry, wow. I'm getting a bit passionate about
that. No, I love this. We've gone down this rabbit hole now. That is incredible. I did... during COVID, I ran an open mic. I did it virtually online with Zoom, so people would come in and we'd Zoom, and we did an hour every single week. When I got to 12 months, I did a 24-hour one, and had people coming in every 15 minutes, and I did it for 24 hours, and I was raising some money for a cancer charity. And I turned around to I was chatting about logistics and stuff like that, and I said, oh, so I can and again then get Ian to do a slot, and then someone else can do a slot, and so that I can go and get some sleep. And my daughter said, no, Dad, you're missing the point. It's got to be a challenge. So I stayed up for 24 hours. It was crazy, but it was one of the best things I ever did. Getting all those people in, and it's just turnover. It was dead easy. It's nothing like they had at Live Aid where they had to, move the stage around. It was sort of like, you're in, next one in. It was good fun. It was good fun.
Yeah.
Do you use any other social media?
No.
None at all.
There are things that you'll find me on as an account, but I'm essentially selling leftovers from my divorce, any golf balls that I find to fund myself and my girlfriend's love of the odd round here and there, so we'd have to pay out for it. So no, I don't. I try to start my own social media platform back in 2001, and we got hacked a couple of years later. And we lost the advances we made. And this was before anyone had heard of Facebook. So I had an idea about what it could become. It's not quite what I would have hoped. It's much more an aesthetic display than I would have. I like a bit more depth to it. It is what it is now, and I'm not sure we'll rescue it. There's some smaller platforms out there which I think will niche and potentially stay in the right place. But no, I think that professionally LinkedIn for the time being does its job for me. Maybe when I come to run the Music Olympics, that's which we can't call it, of course. But I think I'll be found on more platforms and more visual to some degree by then.
I love the whole concept of that. That is incredible. So how long do you linger on LinkedIn then during the day, Adam?
Oh dear, I mean, it looks like that green dot's always bright, so I'm probably 24 hours. If anybody pushes a message, I'd probably answer within a few seconds, generally speaking. No, I think probably an hour of quality time, and then potentially the revisiting. It's a bit of a problem. I think I need counselling, so I think I probably dip in and out probably 30 times in a day. But that's because I want to be on point. I want to be live. I want to see what's happening, and I want to be able to respond in time. And I do allow myself time to think, right, I'll break away from what I got planned in a day to absorb a little bit and take part. And look, there's so many people in my network that are pushing out content, some of it live like this, and others are having great debates, things that sometimes don't sit well down the pub, but they're better if you put them into a professional forum. So I enjoy being in those areas, and I am contrarian, cantankerous, so I do provoke a little more reaction, maybe some.
No, look, that's the one thing I tell people to do is to be themselves, and if that's who you are, well, you shouldn't put on a veil. You shouldn't put on a veil.
I don't think I do. I'm just acutely aware of the outcome of that choice of strategy, and maybe it's not strategy. I think it's just purely what goes on in my mind. But I think I am more careful. I am considerate to some, but not all. I mean, there are things that people post, and I just think, right, I'm coming at you because that's ridiculous. that doesn't serve its purpose. You said something where you started to believe you represent others, and quite often that's not the case. And there was I can't remember the exact lyric, but an Eminem lyric about if it affects one kid, that's good enough for him, something along those lines. And sometimes I think of that. During COVID, I mean, it was a failed campaign, but there was a reason why I started it. And there was my road, for example, had its own group, and everyone was fascinated the fact that we had technology to connect together. Actually, what I looked at was there were 60 people in that group. There was potentially 240 people in the road, and my job was to try and get a +1. Who can I bring into the group that's sitting in my neighborhood that isn't involved? And this is a question that I'm asking in my industry, in the events industry now, outside of the music industry, but the event I now play in. And that is, who's not in the room and why? Because it's very easy to get feedback from people you can find. It's really hard to work out why people are not in the room or haven't visited or haven't been present. And I think that's a bigger question we should be asking. And that helps with things like neurodiversity, inclusion, and all sorts of other areas where people feel ostracized or aligned to different needs.
No, I love that. Wow. You're blowing my mind today, sir. You're absolutely blowing my mind today. How much content do you create yourself then, Adam?
Almost nothing. I'm not a great writer. I'll muse over what I've written, probably find 101 grammar mistakes, and probably then hit send anyway, or hit commit. So it's not my best form. I prefer to be talking anytime, much more a conversationalist. And I like to get close to people, and I don't feel I'm ever that close when I'm pushing out content online. I think I'm attracting somebody that I don't want to speak to more often than people I would like to speak to. Finding the balance is why I do it. Because it's very easy to get stuck in a silo, position yourself around people that are going to say, yes, Adam, or I agree, or I'm with you on that. I genuinely want to hear from people that say, I'm not with you on that. I think you've got it wrong. And I might be able to defend myself to some degree, but maybe I'm only defending myself because I think that might represent 3% of people that are not being listened to or not being heard. So I'm happy. I'm happy in those dark spaces where maybe others aren't being considered.
No, cool, excellent. So come on then, tell us what you do and how you do it, and how people can work with you and all that sort of stuff. So come on.
I'm very proud of what we've done with MESA, which stands for the Meetings and Events Support Association. This was born during the COVID period from an organisation which we had a lot of respect for, called the MDI, the Meeting Design Institute, run by a fantastic man called, fantastic man called Martin Van Est. Almost like stumbled into it. What was his name again? We learned a lot from Martin, and he decided during COVID that he wouldn't carry on the membership that he'd been part of. But nevertheless, there was a lot of members that felt that we didn't want to disband. So I put it to at least half of them that we should potentially stick together. And we did. And we've become this group. It's a community. We've been able to travel around Europe, going to trade shows. And we're representing lots of different companies that have technology mostly to provide the events industry. So the professional events industry, like Confrex, what else have we been to? IMEX, IBTM. These are large trade shows, which have been a lot of fun to do. So that's something I'm passionate about. It allows me to network with the cause. I think because it's an association, we're non-profit. We're there to try and represent a group of people and position ourselves in the professional sense. And that's meant we've got deals done. We've found people that are in a difficult place, and we've been able to help them make business introductions and watch some of our members grow, even in what has been quite difficult times for technology companies. One of our members has just been acquired, and that's a great thing for any company, providing it was a desirable acquisition.
Yeah, sure.
So that's good. So outside of that industry, I still linger with music, but I try and keep it as fun for the time being until I've got. Look, I mean, if I never have enough money to do it, then it will never happen. But I believe I need to exit 2 companies. So that's partly why I'm building on different fronts, because some of these things are going to be a very long, drawn-out process. I'm not trying to impress anybody with speed. And there's a wisdom and a knowledge that needs to come along the way. I wasn't born into MIT or Cambridge or Oxford. I wasn't born to be an academic, so I can't just prove it on paper. So there's a lot of getting down in the weeds and working with people and listening. I don't do a lot of it, I must admit. Anybody that knows me knows I talk a lot. But I'm trying to listen to the narrative, which often means you're listening to the hubbub, not so much brilliantly at one person, as people will testify. And then this all is bridged with networking. So I definitely have grown into being passionate about networking. And there's a couple of statistics that bear out as well. I'm not sure people spot them, but they're pretty obvious. And it's that if the recruitment world is responsible for, I don't know, it's like 200 billion in UK, some ridiculous number. But your network and networking is meant to be responsible for 80%. I'm not sure there is an overlap, but 80%, that's a massive industry. Sorry, I think it's about 35 billion. I got the figure wrong. That means that networking is responsible for about 200 billion pounds worth of career placements. Okay, it might be less than that, but it seems to be an area that's really underrepresented. And with that, you see a lot of places to talk about network, but it's lip service. It's like they throw people in a room. It's not facilitated. And I think some of the tools and provisioning for it are really weak. So I'm now scared, looking at where I can find good tools. And there are some, anything that I might build is not independently going to rule the world. It's like music. There's different genres. And I think networking, you can sense the same.
So what did you get up to when you were in the music industry? You keep talking about it, and you got my guitars on the wall. So come on, you keep teasing me. What did you do?
What did I get up to? Oh dear, hang on. What can I say live? Okay, I think the first thing was to, I believed I was building something reasonably unique, and if it had come off, it would have been because we'd have had some sort of social media platform. But there was a lot of naivety. I'll admit that from day one. But I wasn't waiting for someone to prompt me or tell me or show me the roadmap. So we were making it up on a daily basis. And when we were building it's now called social media, but the platform for communicating between music fans and wanting to sell product at a time when Amazon was selling books, we were selling multiple types of product. But we were doing it on a shoestring. And you learn something over time in business that not every project can be run on a what they call bootstrapping, the money that you've got in your pocket or your friends and family's pocket. And as much as I love that notion that the people around me would win, actually done them a bit of a disservice if there's not enough money to create that entity and that rolling provision of the services and products that you want to develop and put out there. So I think that we had all the right ideas. I think, I was a tough guy. I really wanted to make it. I was running at speed, sometimes through brick walls, not necessarily bringing everybody with me, not being the best manager in the world. And I have to look at that now. I'm still learning. I've got some fantastic people in my network that I learn from literally by the minute. There's a chap called John Martinez, whose company's called Shock Logic. I mean, it's just one of those people you meet and you go, wow, do I need you? Because you know what you're not good at. If you're very, very self-reflective and, self-aware, I know there's things I'm still trying to get right. But I put a lot of energy in, and sometimes I just don't have time to keep being great at something that somebody else wants me to be good at. And I have to hold my hands up sometimes and say, you know what, that's not the best version of me. And I'm sorry, I know, but I think it's like a sportsman hitting a bad shot. You can practice all day long, and you can still end up hitting a bad shot. So that's how I feel. But there's a whole bunch of people that I'm positively influenced by. That's where I'm at the moment.
No, that's fantastic. I want to know this crush that you've got on certain businesses. What's that all about?
Yeah, so that I call it a brush. So a business crush. Now let's be clear. I'm not talking about. I don't fancy John Martinez. Okay, that's not what this is about.
Okay,
and I don't fancy Victoria Matey. There are just people in my network which, for me, they're great stimulants. They're people that you watch what they do and you think, oh my God, I'm so pleased you are representing that model you've created, that business you are in front of, that company you run, those people you represent. I'm trying to think of who our class is this. So I mentioned John, Alina Jutlight from the freelance business community. She runs the freelance business month in October. So any freelancers out there, you need to know about this. It's a fantastic resource, a very giving lady. She's done marvelous things over the last 3 years, again, coming out of the COVID period. So something I wouldn't recommend anyone tries to do is try and imagine good people in banking. But I'm going to mention NatWest because there's a chap that works for NatWest called Nick Howe. He's London-based. What an incredible human being. The banking industry is just so lucky that they've got Nick Howe and NatWest specifically. So, I've no bones about saying it. I'm not embarrassed. This is a human that everybody needs to know, because there's a chance that things get better with Nick. There's definitely not a chance that things get better with other people in the banking industry. There's plenty that I would say, go it alone. Don't involve them. Victoria Matey is another one. She's a lady. She's an event psychologist, and I just keep saying she should be on every event planner and in every event company's speed dial. Whenever you've got plans strategically, or you want to work out what humans are doing, you need Victoria Matey on your phone. Call her. So yeah, there's others. It's remiss of me not to be mentioning this all day long. I could probably pick 100 names.
And that's the problem, isn't it? So, I haven't mentioned. So if you think of any, drop them in the comments in this on LinkedIn, and then people can come back and we can all connect with them, because this is the thing, right, with networking. And that is why I love LinkedIn so much. I'm networking with so many people. Prior to this session today, I was having a lovely, lovely chat with a lady called Helena from Madrid. And I wouldn't have got to meet her if I wasn't on LinkedIn. And that's the beauty. And having amazing guests like you on my show every single week is just a delight. So, networking, I love it. Mental health, talk about that. Because you put in something about bravado.
Yeah, so I started thinking about this years ago. A chap called Robert Bowles, when I mentioned that it worried me. This was pre-pandemic. It worried me that there's a lot of bravado around entrepreneurship. How do you represent your business and say, actually there's struggles? So it's almost like there isn't any. Like, everybody's running a great company. Everyone's about to make it. Everyone's raising money. There's so many things that you have to make it look like you are doing well at. Covering all bases, or jack of all trades, so good. And in the end, you start thinking that mathematically, that's how my brain works. Like that cannot be the case. Not all these people have picked up a business and gone, this is amazing. This is the life I wanted. This is the life I expected. How do you predict where entrepreneurship really takes you? Even a single business is hard to nail down. You have to think about where you're going with it on a pretty much daily basis, even if you are strategic like I am. So it worried me. Then the pandemic hit, and the first thing I did was stopped all business interests, started to run a campaign for the Royal College of Nursing. My thoughts were that nurses will be hit hard. We wanted to see where we could help, and our campaign landed best with the Royal College of Nursing.
And we've lost Adam. So
it stopped us thinking about what was happening in the pandemic. So we didn't have to listen to the news. We just thought, what are we doing? What are we doing today? We had a group of about 15 people. We'd meet, sometimes every day. It was a fancy dress campaign. So I would say a slightly less professional version of myself, dressing up as Batman and Robin and Luke Skywalker or whatever else came along. Just trying to entertain people. We weren't entertainers, but we were just thinking, do you know what? If someone can laugh at us, I don't care. That's fine.
Yeah.
Would have liked it to be a bigger campaign, but there was this guy called Tom. He was stealing the airwaves. But look, he did the job we were all trying to do. He got attention to raise money and alleviate the burden from people's lives during that period. So we were all aiming for the same thing, but it's a good job that somebody did it well.
Yeah, no, I don't. He didn't set out to do it either, did he?
No, I think actually walking around anyway. I think it was more a case that someone went, oh, "This guy's doing a great thing."
Was it 18 million in the end?
Oh, I think there's different ways of managing. I think you can say there was potentially over 100 million in the end. I think it was, topped out with government gifts and all sorts. So yeah.
Pretty incredible. It was crazy times. Absolutely crazy times. We've run out of time already, Adam. I could talk to you forever. Yeah, it is shocking, but it is actually called 50 minutes behind the profile, and we've already gone over. I've got one more.
15 minutes extra.
Yeah, I've got one more question for you. I just want to quickly go and give a shout out to my guest next week. Pavel is just talking here about the power of networking. It really is, Pavel. It is incredible the amount of people that we get to meet in our days. So next week, I have got the automation king, Dan Harrison, from a company called Customers on Tap, and he's coming in and talking to us about what he does on LinkedIn and also automation. So I look forward to having a chat with him. But Adam, my last question to you today is, what would you say, if you could go back in time, that is, to your 16-year-old self?
Pre-book counselling.
Fair enough. Do we delve into that one?
Well, there were definitely times when I wasn't equipped to manage the ambition that I have. Whether I am now, I don't know. There's going to be ups and downs. I'm dealing with some difficult circumstances at home with my father, who's in a care home after a very serious stroke. And you do have to remind yourself that there are going to be times when it's not easy to focus. There's going to be times when you need to give yourself over to what I think is a very important thing in my life. Somebody I have respect for, and that also affects my mum. So, one of the problems is when you run a business is you quite often need to be all in, and you quite often need to tell people you're all in. They need to believe you're all in. So I've held back quite a lot the last couple of years because it's been a cause I want to spend time on. So yeah, I just think you have to be very wise to those ups and downs, those peaks and troughs, and depending on your personality type, sometimes they are more extreme. And I certainly know what it's like to feel horribly depressed. I think I was just horrifically depressed in COVID when my rabbits died. Sort of almost a couple of months apart. And it seems like a really silly thing, but it brought other things out, the sort of pent up side, so, but you can forgive yourself. Sometimes it's allowed, and alongside mental health, I think, it's a big topic, but being allowed, being free to be emotional, I think is something we need to learn to do better at.
No, fantastic. What amazing words. Adam, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for all the comments as well. And we will be back next week. Thanks ever so much. Cheerio, Adam.
Thanks everyone.
You get out what you put in.